the Baltimore Ravens. And it was not kind to the Ravens in 2021 because InjuryMania, they were the latest victims of InjuryMania. Going wild. What you gonna do, brother? When InjuryMania and all those injuries run wild on you, brother. Poor Ravens, man. They suffered a full rash of injuries to the likes of Marcus Peters, J.K. Dobbins, and even Lamar Jackson, whether it was in the preseason or in the regular season. And, you know, it wasn't like that whole wave. They were 8-3, even with all those injuries. But then December came, and even with all the injuries, they were making a lot of weird choices, going for 2 in critical games. And they went on a 6-game losing streak. Lamar Jackson gets hurt, misses the last couple of games of the season. Tyler Huntley, that was the quarterback's name, right? He does okay. He actually does solid in relief of Lamar Jackson. But unfortunately, all those 2-point conversion calls by John Harbaugh were kind of weird. It was kind of weird that they went for it when, sure, your defense kind of sucked in 2021. But at the same time, it's like going for 2 was pretty risky. So they end the season 8-9, and they had a chance to go to the playoffs, but they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers at home in a winner home game. And yeah, they were dead last in the division because I think they got swept. No, they didn't get swept by the Browns. I guess they had a worse division record by them. So for the Baltimore Ravens, a very disappointing season for them. Not the way that they wanted to, but hey, they were in the fight for much of the season despite all the injuries. So, of course, your goal for 2022, if you're the Baltimore Ravens, is to stay healthy. And especially considering what had happened in the AFC North with the Cincinnati Bengals. They won the AFC. They went to the Super Bowl. They were just inches away from becoming the Super Bowl champions and an offensive line away from becoming Super Bowl champions against the LA Rams. So, if you're the Baltimore Ravens and you're Lamar Jackson and you're John Harbaugh, you want to assure that everyone gets healthy, they stay healthy through the season and preseason, mind you, so they could compete with the Cincinnati Bengals, they could compete with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and maybe even the Cleveland Browns in that very tight AFC North race. And sure enough, in the offseason, they did just that, at least on paper. Obviously, we're not in the regular season yet, but they made some moves to assure of that. And as long as they stay healthy, they'll be just fine. So looking at some of their offseason moves, they did re-sign some key defensive ends, Calais Campbell and Justin Houston, some pieces in their pass rush. And when you look at their offseason signings, it was pretty mostly on the offensive side of the ball. Not this offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. Because, well, their defense was pretty bad in 2021. They went out to get free safety Marcus Williams from the New Orleans Saints, defensive tackle Michael Pierce from the Minnesota Vikings, Kyle Fuller from the Denver Broncos, the corner. They did add a piece on the offensive line to protect Lamar Jackson, which was pretty good. They did lose their center, Bradley Bozeman, to the Carolina Panthers, though. So a key piece to their offensive line, pretty gone. But they did manage to address that in the draft with drafting a center by the name of Tyler Lindbaum from Iowa. And so another key thing that they did in the draft was trading away Marquise Hollywood Brown in a 3rd-round pick to the Arizona Cardinals. And my thinking was, why would they do that? Why would the Baltimore Ravens trade away their top receiver? Perhaps he was asking for too much money. Maybe he was getting greedy, or the Baltimore Ravens didn't want to pay him. I don't know. But either way, it was a very strange thing to do. And especially considering they didn't really address it, like how to get his replacement in the draft. So they did manage to also get another safety in Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame and outside linebacker in David Ojabo. So it helps out with the pass rush. So overall, the Baltimore Ravens offseason was pretty good. I just wish they would address getting another receiver because you still have uncertainty with your second receiver, Rashad Bateman. And I think Rashad Bateman is pretty solid. It's just that he was injured for a good half of the year last year. And he showed some potential, but when you have Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews being your top two guys in the lineup, of course, you can't, like Lamar Jackson is not going to be able to feed Rashad Bateman that much because he's going to defer to his top man, Brown, and Mark Andrews because they're open so much. But this now that Marquise Brown is gone, and I think defense is going to target Mark Andrews more, what are you going to get out of Rashad Bateman? Like, what are you going to get out of him? So that's something to keep an eye on. And the fact that they don't have another option behind Bateman and Andrews is kind of baffling. It is kind of baffling. In whatever those number 2 or 3 options are supposed to be, they also have uncertainty. So the receiving options behind those two, it's kind of sketchy. It is kind of sketchy. But I did like their focus on the defense because that defense looks like it's going to be improved in 2022 with the pass rush, the secondary. I'm not sure how many points they're not going to allow, or if Marcus Peters is going to come back. But it all depends on if they can stay healthy. That's the key here, staying healthy in 2022. Now, looking at some of the key games in this coming season, it's the first 4 weeks of the season. You're pretty much facing off against the entirety of your intra-conference schedule, the AFC East, the Bills, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Dolphins, like interchanging. You start off with the Jets in New York, and pretty much from there, you're going from Jets, Miami, Patriots, Bills. I think that I got that order correct. So pretty tough slate considering like how most of the teams in the AFC East improved, and the Bills, they're already a complete team. So pretty tough out for a Ravens team that's trying to stay healthy again and trying to get back to contention. And then after that slate, you have a home game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And then before your bye week 7 and 9, against the Cleveland Browns, whether it's Deshaun Watson or Jacoby Brissett, they're not going to be an easy go. And then you go to do your NFC South road slate against the Tampa Bay Bucks and Tom Brady, and then New Orleans Saints. And, they're still not a pushover. So it's going to be a tough first half of the season for the Baltimore Ravens. But again, as long as they stay healthy, they should be in solid contention from there. Now, for Baltimore, the biggest question for the Baltimore Ravens, though, prior to the season is, do they get that contract extension done between themselves and Lamar Jackson? Because it's been a kind of a big talking point in the offseason. Lamar Jackson's eligible for that. I think he's entering the 4th and final year of his contract, and you don't want him to just waltz away as a free agent and then sign him for even more massive money. So you have to sign him. Like, you have to get this deal done. Otherwise, things can look awkward, or Lamar Jackson might report to training camp, which, by the way, starts at some point this week. And it's just, you just don't want to create this awkward situation throughout the season. And who knows, maybe Lamar Jackson could want more money. They could get offered more money by another team, and the Ravens might not be able to match it. You have to be careful here if you're the Baltimore Ravens. So for the Baltimore Ravens, I do think that they made a lot of improvements in the offseason, especially in the defensive side of the ball. Like I said, time and time again in this portion, as long as everyone can stay healthy, they don't run through a bad luck of injuries again, they are going to really compete with the Cincinnati Bengals this season. I could see them either being a wild card team with 9 or 10 wins, or outright winning the division with maybe that same amount of wins, or maybe even 11 to 12 wins. Because, like Lamar Jackson's a good quarterback. I mean, granted, he doesn't run the ball even more. and his running back stay healthy. And who knows, maybe a breakout option behind Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews comes out. And then, of course, your defense is much improved. So don't count out the Baltimore Ravens in this AFC North title race against the Bengals, the Steelers, the Browns. They're just very much in it as every other team in this division.